Hey everyone, welcome back to BrowncoatNerd. Today we're just going to kind of look over some of the guns that I have concealed and carried in the past. This is not a review of any of these guns. I do, however, have a review for all of these guns, but maybe not this one depending on the order that I release these videos. And this is definitely by any means not a these are the best guns to conceal and carry, because as a matter of fact, some of these aren't the greatest at all. I'll let you guys debate over that. But regardless, they are guns that I have carried in the past. Now, obviously, I collect military surplus, and the majority of my collection is going to be military surplus. So it should come as no surprise that you see a lot of military surplus out on the table here. So first off, we'll start with the honorable mentions. I've got 3 guns that I have carried in the past that are no longer in my collection. And we'll start with the Polish Radom P64. That was the very first gun I started to conceal and carry. I had both a leather kind of inside the waistband / pocket holster for it, as well as a Kydex holster for it. That was a really nice holster, actually. That was chambered in 9x18, and it carried 6+1 rounds. So not a very high capacity. It was a very slim profile gun. However, it was all steel, so it was pretty heavy. Also, it had very small sights on it. I eventually was going to paint the sights, but I ended up selling it to a friend of mine, so I didn't want to, put paint on a gun that I was no longer going to have in my collection. Some of the benefits of the gun, it did have a loaded chamber indicator, so that was pretty nice. It did have a decocker, that was also very nice. And I typically did carry it with the hammer down and the safety off, and it had an extremely heavy double action trigger, so it was still very safe to carry it in that condition. And that was even with me changing out the hammer spring for a much lighter one. That double action was still very heavy. The downside, the single action trigger pull, I mean, you could blow on it and it would go off. It was a little touchy on single action. Next up, we have the Yugoslavian Zastava M88A. That was chambered in 9x19 or 9mm Parabellum, 9mm Luger, however you want to call it. And that was 8+1. That was essentially a Tokarev chambered in 9mm with a slightly shorter grip. That did have a safety, did not have a decocker, had pretty primitive sights, which you would expect on a Tokarev. No real fancy features there. However, it was a very nice gun, and once again, like a Tokarev, it was fairly slim, and it had the benefit of being chambered in 9x19. Then the last one on the honorable mentions list is my Polish Radom TTC Tokarev. Like I mentioned before with the M88A, it was a very slim gun. It was 8+1 of 7.62 by 25. Once again, primitive sights. That one did have the import safety that was on the slide. I typically, if I remember correctly, I believe I carried that one with the hammer down and the import safety off. Going back to the Zastava M88 9mm Tokarev, I believe I carried that one with the hammer back and the safety on, because that had an actual Zastava installed slide safety on there. And then for that Tokarev, did I grab it? Yeah, I did. I use this, what brand are we? I got this for free from my sister-in-law. It is a Black Hawk holster. It's just a generic holster for a 1911, and this worked great for the Zastava M88A as well as the Tokarev. And I've used it for some of the other guns right here we'll get to in a moment. But this was kind of an inside the waistband holster. Not the best, but for free, $99, I couldn't complain. So, now let's dive into the guns that are still in the collection. Let's see, we will start with the Bulgarian Makarov. And real quick, I'm not going to go through all of these and show you, but just so everyone knows, these all have been safety checked and they are all clear. So we got the Bulgarian Makarov, chambered in 9x18 Makarov. It does carry 8+1 rounds. Pretty primitive sights. Fairly slim, not super slim, but fairly slim. It is all steel, so it is pretty heavy. The safety is also a decocker, as you just saw. So that is pretty nice. And when I carried this, which I didn't carry this a lot of these guns I only carried a few times, some of them even only like once or twice. But I would carry this with the safety off, hammer down, and it's got a fairly heavy double action trigger pull, so I felt pretty safe having that as my safety. Next up, we have the Italian Beretta 85F. Now this was my first kind of semi-modern carry gun. Once again, fairly slim, especially once I put on these lock grips that I really like. These are very aggressive texture, plus it thinned out the single stack grip a little bit more than what it already was. Now this is the F version of the 85. It is chambered in 380. We get 8+1 rounds with that. Once again, we do have a decocker, so I would typically carry this with the hammer down and the safety off. We have some decent modern sights. They're not night sights or anything, but at least we got some dots on there. So that was pretty nice. And the holsters I had for this guy, this was actually, I purchased this as a shoulder holster just out of curiosity. Even with, I think the shoulder bands stretched all the way out. Okay, I'm kind of chubby, but I'm not that fat. This thing was extremely uncomfortable to use, so I just took the holster off of the rig, the little shoulder rig, and I would kind of use this as a pocket carry holster. I did also have this guy, I believe it's a DeSantis, and I would use this as an inside the waistband holster. The downside of this one, this particular 85F, is a former Italian, how do you say, Carabinieri, Italian police, and part of their special order on that was getting slightly wider little safety notch here. Safety lever. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. And because of that, this makes it just a little bit too fat to actually snap. So when I did carry this, I would just carry it with that retention undone. It was still snug enough. I didn't have to worry about, you know, losing my gun or anything. There we go, finally got the slide out. But that's how I would carry this one. And I'm showing these in the order that I wrote them down, which kind of alphabetical order, not necessarily the order in which I carried them. This one's a little bit lighter. We do have an alloy frame. It's still all metal. And also chambered in 380. The 9x18 Makarov round, you can find some hollow points in it. However, 380, you have a much wider range of self-defense ammunition. So it actually was nice having that 380. Next on the list, we have our American Beretta, the APX A1 Carry. Now, when I first got this, I did pocket carry it a few times. This has kind of become my wife's carry gun. We got a single white dot up front. We do have a cut for a optic if you want to go that route with it. This one is chambered in 9x19. It has a capacity of 6 or 7 rounds with a flush fit mag. The flush fit mag on this guy actually advertises it as 6. However, you can actually get 7 rounds in there, and I've tried that out quite extensively at the range, and I haven't had any problems. However, when I did pocket carry this, I was continuing to use just 6 rounds just to be on the safe side. And then you can also get an extended mag that holds 8 rounds. Now, when I carried it, I used this DeSantis Superfly pocket holster, which I absolutely love. This is actually for my Glock 43. As you can see, it works perfectly fine for the Beretta APX A1 Carry. For my wife, we're going with style. Got her a fanny pack. Real quick, what is this? Slade Street Tactical. I have no clue what company that is. I just kind of found this patch in some of my stuff. I don't think I have any of their things. And I figured, you know, Velcro, might as well put a patch on there. I've got a really cool T91 tactical patch, but I didn't want to put that on there. I kind of want to be a little more gray man with it. But this, I'd actually purchased. It's a real cheap, I think it's a copy of, I don't know if it's 511's holster. See, we've got a little spot for extra mags. That's our flush fit mag there. I originally purchased this for my Glock 43. Thought this would be something nice, just kind of throw around my shoulder. I got little doggy bags in the pockets here for when I'm walking the dog. However, I discovered it is much more comfortable for me still just to grab that DeSantis pocket holster. The strap on this is not the most comfortable. My wife has also mentioned that. So we will probably eventually upgrade. This does have some nice pockets though for like throwing her phone and stuff. Like I said, this is just a really cheap generic knockoff one I found on eBay, and it was very, very cheap. So like I said, this was actually advertised as being for the Glock 43. They've got several different configurations for different guns. I can make the APX work in this if I do it kind of like that. And I kind of made my wife train with this a little bit to kind of push forward and then pull out if she needs to. But this is pretty cheap. The elastic's already getting stretched out here. As you can see, it's actually even starting to get a little frayed. I just pulled that off. So if we decide to continue on with the fanny pack route, we will eventually get a better brand. She's still kind of on the fence whether she likes this or not. So that's the APX A1 Carry. This one does not have a manual safety, which I do prefer. We got ambidextrous slide lock. No, we don't. We just have the one side slide locks. I'm thinking of my full size APX. I'm sorry. Just the one side slide lock on there, which is fine because neither one of those are lefties. That's a pretty accurate little guy. I am very happy with this, and just recently did a review on that. This is my newest carry gun other than the Smith here. Next down the line, we have the Czech Republic CZ VZ83. This is essentially a CZ82, but instead of being a 9x18 Makarov, this one is chambered in 380. Of course, these are also offered in 9x18 Makarov as well as 32 ACP. This one, we don't have a decocker, but we can carry it cocked and locked. We have an ambidextrous safety on here. The sights are decent, especially for military surplus. We do kind of have a 3-dot setup there. It's actually 2 dots in the back. And then, yeah, this one is a painted dot up front. I was thinking of the painted ramp of my 82. This does come with an ambidextrous mag release. So out of the box, it is ambidextrous. And this thumb rest is so freaking big. I typically would hit the mag release with my middle finger of my shooting hand. So it's really nice that that mag release is ambidextrous. This gun is pretty darn accurate. I'm very happy with this guy. Like I said, it's chambered in 380. This one is actually listed as being a 12-round magazine. However, this uses the same mag as the Makarov, the CZ82 version, and that carries 12 rounds. But since the Makarov is just a little bit fatter than the 380 round, you can actually manage to get 13 rounds into the magazine for this. However, when I did carry it, once again, just to play on the safe side, I did carry it just with 12 rounds. I've shot this at the range a whole bunch, loading that mag up to 13 rounds, and I never had an issue. But just to play on the safe side, and err on the side of caution, -1 round, that's not a big deal. So 12 plus 1 or 13 plus 1 if you want to be ballsy. Like I said, this is a very accurate gun. I should have been mentioning this before, but this is double action, single action. I'm sure you could have figured out that the A1 was striker fire, and then we did have some single action onlys that I mentioned previously, and I think all the other ones so far have been double action, single actions. That's the CZ VZ83. Then we have the American-made Glock 43. Of course, you can get this version. That's made in Austria as well. I don't think there's much of a difference between the two. This is chambered in 9x19 striker fire. And as you can see, I've done a few things to this. I did add the Streamlight light and laser. However, this light is not very bright at all. But once again, it's better than nothing. You don't actually have a rail underneath here. This is kind of clamshells onto the front trigger guard. However, it is a very, very sturdy fit. So, and also for the price, it was like less than $100. Once again, I figured it is better than nothing. This comes traditionally with the Glock kind of goalpost whited out sights. I did change these out for true glow sights. These are both fiber optic sights, and they also have a little vial of tritium. Yeah, you can't pick that up at all. But you have to take my word for it. There's a vial of tritium in front of that fiber optic sight. So these sights work both very well in the daylight as well as nighttime, when it's freaking dark. So I'm very happy with these sights. They weren't terribly expensive, and I do have reviews of these individual upgrades as well. The trigger is not actually bad at all on this. I forget what the pull on it was, but it's fairly light, and I'm very happy with it. I don't think I need to do any upgrades to that trigger at all. Now, with this being a Glock, we do have an option on magazine capacity. It does come with a flush fit 6-round magazine. Well, actually, it comes with 2 flush fit 6-round magazines. And then different companies do offer, like ETS offers a flush fit mag. Jury's out on whether you should use that as a carry mag or not. It is a flush fit mag. It's also 7 rounds, so 1 extra round. What I did is I got the mag guts internals. So my flush fit mag actually carries 7 rounds, and I really like having the option to have a flush fit mag and having really nice deep concealment depending on what kind of pants I'm wearing, and how much I'm able, to imprint or prevent myself from imprinting. Or printing, not imprinting. You also have options for 8 rounds. What I did is I got the mag guts plus 2, which brings us up to 8 rounds. And that actually just kind of looks like a plus 1 mag extension. Only adds a little bit on there, but you get 2 extra rounds over the factory mag. And then there's all kinds of longer extension mags. I also have an ETS. I think it's a 12-round mag I'll use for the range. All kinds of mag extensions. You have a very wide variety. So the setup I have this one for, with a flush fit and an extended round mag, is 7+1 or 8+1 with the mag sticking out just a little bit. So very happy with that. This was my first modern conceal and carry gun. And I used this DeSantis pocket holster. And like I said, I did actually get the fanny pack originally for this. But I just discovered this was just much more convenient to continue to use this when I'm walking the dog. And now the wife uses the fanny pack for the Beretta. Next up, we have our Rock Island 1911 A1 FS. Now is this Philippines? Yeah. This is made in the Philippines. Now, when I did carry this, and this one I only carried like twice, still had the factory wood grips. Did not yet have the sweetheart grips of my wife on there. Meaning to do an update with this guy, because I've done a few things to this. It actually comes with a flat back strap, but I really like the arched back strap. These are very basic sights. This is set up just like your, World War I or World War II era military issue 1911, so nothing fancy. Pretty heavy, and then once again, I use that Black Hawk holster for this guy. This was just a little bit too big for me to carry, and then whenever I carry, I always do it concealed. And I kept finding my shirt popping up over the grip here. Sitting in the car with this, and also I typically carry in the kind of 5 o'clock position. This was just not comfortable. Like, not at all. When I very first got this, I already had these holsters. And so I was like, new gun, I'll go ahead and carry it. And very quickly, I was like, yeah, no. This is chambered in 45 ACP. You can also get them in 9mm, as well as a variety of other rounds. This actually came with a 8-round mag, which just stuck out a little bit. But I've got several of these 7-round mags, and those are the flush fit mags. And then, of course, this being a 1911, you can get all kinds of long extended mags for this as well. So you got quite a variety of options on the mag capacity. This is a single action only, and you can carry it cocked and locked. And the 1 or 2 times I carried this, I couldn't tell you how I carried it. I honestly don't even remember. I very quickly realized that was not the best carry for me. Like I said, this isn't a review of like the best carry guns, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be like, oh, I carry a 1911 all the time. Mine's a double. That's awesome. But for me, it was not so awesome. So next up, kind of in the 1911 family again, we have the Spanish Star BM. This is chambered in 9x19. It is 8+1 rounds. Obviously, as you can see, it's very much of a 1911 inspired design. It is single action only. Like the 1911, you can carry it cocked and locked, and that is how I carried this. Pretty basic, blacked out sights. Nothing really special here. Now, when I carry this, I actually still have the original black plastic checkered grips, which aren't very aggressive. Only fairly recently did I get these really nice lock grips on here. I believe these are the bogies, and these are very aggressive. These are great grips. Wish I had these grips on there when I carried it. I carried this a fair amount. Once again, I would use this 1911 holster. Obviously, it had a lot of space up here. I've actually got a few of these, and I thought about trimming one of them down, but I never really carried this long enough to get to that point. And I did have, and I went looking for it, I've brought this up a few times, I found it's kind of an inside the waistband plastic holster. I don't think it's quite Kydex. I got it off Liberty Tree Collectors a while back, and I used that a few times. It did kind of get a little bit loose in there. It was a little bit better fitting than this. However, this was a little bit more comfortable because that plastic one only like gets on there like this, and that sight sometimes could get me in the buttock. But this has been a very reliable, very accurate gun for me. And while it is all steel, it's not super heavy, so it's not too bad. Then we have probably the most controversial gun on this table, and I'm sure some of you have just been waiting, going, why the hell did you carry that? The Yugoslavian Zastava M70, which is basically a little direct blowback Tokarev, little baby Tok. And this one is chambered in 32 ACP. Not a round I would necessarily recommend carrying. But I did. It's 8+1 rounds. You do have a safety on here. This kind of looks like an import added safety, but this is actually the safety that Zastava added. And it is single action only, and this is how I carried it. And then, I forgot to mention, I think some of these other guns I use this holster for, but a buddy of mine gave me this Vega little suede holster. It's for, I don't think it says what it's for. Might just be a universal holster. But I discovered it worked pretty decently for this Zastava. Now, I never actually carried this inside the waistband. I would just kind of use this as a pocket holster. Now, when I use this is when we lived in a very, I don't want to say posh neighborhood, but a very quiet neighborhood. It was full of a lot of elderly. And I basically would carry this when I was walking the dog. The place that we lived kind of had a little private park, so I wasn't even getting out into the public area. And I basically would just carry this just in case there's like a stray dog or something that tried to come up and attack my little chihuahua. My dog is defenseless. He thinks he's a hoss, but he's not. And so this is really why I carried this one. I was just kind of curious. I like to change things up. And I wasn't too concerned about having to use this, like if I was getting robbed or murdered or something. I had the feeling in that neighborhood the most likely thing I was going to encounter would be something like a rabid dog or a loose dog that was just wanting to take its next chihuahua victim. So I carried this. Now, if you, I don't know, maybe you're like recoil sensitive, this is a very light shooter. If you were stuck in a position where you're going to carry 32 ACP, they do make hollow points. I've watched reviews of them, and the 32 round just does not have enough velocity to really get that hollow point to open up. So getting a hollow point 32 ACP, from what I've seen, and I'm no expert, it's kind of a waste of time, and I wouldn't bother. However, Fort Scott Munitions has recently started making some rounds in 32 ACP, and that got me very interested. If you're not familiar with that company, they make solid brass projectiles. They're not hollow points. Actually, I got some 9mm here. The rounds typically, of course, depending on what caliber you get, are very pointy. And these rounds aren't necessarily, obviously, designed to open up, but rather are designed to penetrate. And of course, they have the whole tumble on impact thing, and a lot of people say, oh, it's just, advertising, and you're better off still using a modern hollow point. And I'm not going to argue that. However, with that 32 ACP round, I think it kind of shows there is a time and a place where the Fort Scott munition rounds are actually a really good choice for self-defense. One, I believe you do have states, or at the very least counties, which you cannot get hollow points. And if that was the case, I'd rather use my self-defense ammo with the Fort Scott munition stuff than just your standard ball ammo. And then once again, with something like 32 ACP, where you're not going to get up to the velocities to really open up a hollow point, those tumble-on impact rounds are like perfect for something like that. So I was really excited to see that they were making them in 32 ACP. I've been meaning to get some. I have not yet. But like I said, if you're stuck in a position where you absolutely had to carry something like that, I feel like the Fort Scott munitions would be a really good choice for a self-defense ammo in 32 ACP. So, oh yeah, this also has a magazine disconnect safety. So, there's that on that guy. Single action only. I don't know if I mentioned that already. And then, last on the list, I think, have I pulled up everything that's out here? Is the Smith & Wesson M&P 9C. This is chambered in 9x19. It comes with a flush fit 12 round mag. You can also use the M&P 15 round mag as well as the full size 17 round mag, and they have like little sleeves that go onto the mag to kind of extend your grip down. And then I think Smith & Wesson is now making a 21 or a rather higher capacity magazine for one of their pistol calibered rifles that would also obviously work in here. This one I did just pick up literally today, which is why I kind of think I got the idea to make this video. I wanted to get something that I had more, like, obviously I've got my Glock 43, but winter is coming. And in my winter jacket, I remember last winter thinking, with my Glock 43, I'm like, that 43 just falls right into my, Carhartt pockets of my winter coats and stuff. I was like, I've got room to carry something that's a little bit thicker. And this is a double stack. So we get that extra magazine capacity. I'm not going to be carrying this inside the waistband, which I do have a holster for the 43 to do that. I just ended up pocket carrying it more. This is more pocket carry for like shorts and pants. This is pocket carry for a jacket or coat. That's how I was looking at it. This one, I don't know if I mentioned, is 9mm. Yes, I did. They did also make these in 40. However, I think I've heard them say that the newer 2.0 versions, they've discontinued the 40 caliber option, so you're stuck with 9. However, that's fine with me. 9's what I wanted. You also might notice, interestingly enough, there is an import mark on here. You guys will have to wait for my review to see why this has an import mark. Or, if I've already put that review out, you're going to have to go to my channel and find the review of this to find out why it has an import mark. But obviously, this is a used handgun. It's in decent shape. There's a few spots on it, which once again we'll save for the review. I have not shot this one, so I can't speak to that. It is striker fire. This particular one, unfortunately, does have a manual safety. You can get them with or without the manual safety. These safeties are also designed to easily be removed. You can get little plugs from Smith & Wesson to fill in the frame. And I'm definitely removing this safety. That'll be the first modification I do to this gun. You also have interchangeable back straps. These are kind of rubberized. This is the medium size on there. I think a good size for me, which is good because it only came with one. But yeah, I really, really like the feel of this gun. And then once again, having that option with different mag capacities. Convenient for the range. If I'm wearing a bigger coat, maybe I'll throw in the 15 or 17 round mag just to have that higher capacity. Also, one thing I like about some of these guns right here that you have the higher mag capacity option. If you're in a position where, you either can't afford to get multiple guns, or your wife or your husband just doesn't want you to get multiple guns, or it's just a real pain in the butt to get guns in the state that you live in, I like the higher mag capacity option, because then if you're carrying, you throw in the flush fit mag. Once you get home and you want that nightstand gun, take out that flush fit mag and put in a higher capacity mag, especially with something double stack like this. I go from 12 rounds to 17 rounds just with a simple mag change. And so I think that's a pretty good option for someone that's stuck in a situation where you're limited on the number of handguns that you can get for whatever reason. So that is it, guys. That's all I've got for you. Just kind of wanted to run through some of the guns I've carried. I hope some of you have enjoyed and maybe gotten a laugh out of some of the things I've carried. I know. But I'll own up to it. But I just kind of thought this would be a fun video and wanted to put this out there, so here it is. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Stay safe and stay shiny.